is the Two Marketeers podcast, where hosts and marketing experts Sean Patrick and Lindsay Waugh seek to uncover what makes brands so powerful in how they impact modern society and culture.
Two Marketeers. They've got a podcast. The Two Marketeers podcast.
Hello.
Hello. Namaste.
Hello.
Namaste.
And to you. Now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna not stay.
No, now you're
I don't know.
Now you're gonna go off, I think is what's gonna happen.
I know. I'm so agitated.
Sorry. Guys, she is full of, what is it? Piss and vinegar. Vim and vigor.
Know how a couple episodes ago we talked about busy and bored?
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm just bored. It's February when we're recording this and it's boring.
I'm bored.
I know, you're bored too. You're bored, and then I got bored. I got bored listening to you talk about being bored. You being bored bored me. Now I'm bored.
My mother used to always say, not to me, not to us, but to all of her grandchildren, if the kids were little and they'd be like, I'm bored. And she'd be like, only boring people are bored. And I was like,
That's what we say at our house.
Yeah.
Are you not supposed to say that anymore? We say if you're bored, you're boring. Go find something to do. Be interesting. Go be interested in something. If you're bored, you're boring.
So you're boring, Lindsay. That's.
I know. I'm boring myself with the amount of boredom I am feeling, but I'm too busy to do something that's not boring. What is happening?
I don't know.
This is going to be a fun episode. Let's just do it.
Okay, well, that's in your court.
I'm having a coffee.
Me too. I'm back to Starbucks
Cheers.
today. Click, click. Ooh, look at that mermaid.
Look at that mermaid.
Oh, she's singing. Okay, so we had a plan to talk
We
about
threw it
something.
away.
And then Lindsay saw an article that spoke to her, or should I say screamed at her. And we're going to talk about the incredible power of process.
Process versus creativity, and creativity's role within process. Or are they just on opposite
you're
sides
backwards.
fighting all the time to be like, process, creative, process? No?
No, if you're creative comes first, and then you have it's your creative process. That's the thing. I think that's the problem. Is gone is the idea that it's a creative process that clients buy. I think that's the struggle, and they want to see that process before they can even hire you.
Yeah.
Procure you.
I think the thing is like, in the eyes of clients buying stuff in the ad industry, like process equals results, and creativity is too ambiguous for them to really understand that it may get to great results. They have to sell something that that clients can buy.
Yeah.
We should step back.
Okay. I think it's risk averse. That's what we are.
Yes.
Okay. Step back.
We're stepping back. Okay. So I saw this article maybe a day ago, which is when I was like, no, now we are doing this topic because I'm fired up.
And that is Lindsay's process, people. Embrace it.
Know what the process could be and then don't do it. So I saw this article in Ad Age. The title of it is Why Agencies Are Obsessed with Pitching on Process Instead of Talent. An industry built by creative iconoclasts is suddenly desperate to prove creativity is a mere commodity.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
What's an iconoclast?
Yeah, I did have to Google multiple words in this article. Yes. So back in the day, when agencies, creative agencies, marketing agencies, ad agencies would pitch to clients, it was around creativity, like work that they had done that was like breakthrough creative, and the people, the talent who they had on their bench who were the most creative people you were going to get. And it was all like fighting for talent and selling creativity. And that would be what clients would buy into and buy. Like they wanted the most creative thing because the narrative at that time, like 20, 15 years ago, was that breakthrough creative drives results. Like the best creative is how you get results in marketing and advertising.
Correct.
And then you see this article come out that basically says top agencies are now pitching on process and have kind of put aside pitching on creativity, and why that is happening and where it's coming from. So the article, and we'll share it obviously in the notes of this episode. The article starts out in a really cool way because it says that a friendly CMO shared half a dozen final pitches from an RFP or an ask that these agencies had brought forward and allowed Ad Age to compare them side by side. And I'm like, I want to look at these pitches.
I know.
And see like what the situation is. And what they found was that each agency was trying more so than selling creativity to sell a proprietary process.
Yeah.
And then it goes on in the article to kind of poke fun at agency and processes in general, saying that it's a bunch of triangles and circles, like set up in a row to demonstrate that these are the steps that we go through to get to something that is going to get you great results.
Can we pause because can I please just read the lines because I
Sure.
LOL.
Okay, read them. I'm paraphrasing.
They said every presentation featured a proprietary process designed by the agency, which is redundant.
Yeah.
The key to these one-of-a-kind models is apparently finding the perfect combination of circles, squares, diamonds, and triangles. Ta-da! Thank you, PowerPoint.
Yes.
I cringed because the amount of times I sold a proprietary process, meaning I made it up the night before.
Yeah. So like each of these agencies, when compared side by side, all had a proprietary process, all that looked very similar. They said these pitches had very solid strategies and interesting creative, but the thing that they were all trying to sell was this process. And then this article so beautifully states the only problem is that it's all bullshit. They say a blind it's all bullshit. A blind man could see the creative ideas were not developed via agency's so-called process. And anyone who's ever worked at an agency knows that creativity comes from collaboration and not an assembly line.
Boom.
Boom. So that part in itself is very interesting. But then what happens in the rest of the article is it gets into why agencies are forced to sell process instead of talent.
Right.
And a lot of it comes down to money and budgets and the state of the industry, where the most senior people who would be pitching in these rooms are obviously always the most expensive people as well. So when you look in like a cost-cutting environment, those are typically the first people to go.
Yeah.
So it leaves a lot of agencies with a lot of junior talent that perhaps struggle to bring forward a lot of the content that would go into these pitches. And so when these senior folks aren't in agencies anymore, a lot of them go into consulting and freelance like we have. And what happens is the agencies then hire in this senior talent to build their bench strength, like during the pitch process. And what that does is it creates teams of people who have worked on the pitch who don't work there, right? Who don't work for the agency or the company. So agencies then struggle to sell the talent and the people and the creativity behind the ideas because those people don't actually work there. And then by default, they end up selling what they can sell, which is a proprietary process that guarantees that you're going to lead to something great.
Whew.
Yeah.
Can we unpack that?
Because I was like, why is this happening? And it's very interesting as a freelancer, as a consultant, to say, the way that you sell yourself into agencies who may be hiring you during this pitch process or into clients is also kind of similar. You sell your background and your experience and the work that you've done, but also are required a lot of the time to sell or at least talk about your process. Like as a creative person, people want some sort of guarantee that you're going to go through certain steps to get somewhere, and that by going through said steps, you're going to get to a good outcome, which is then more buyable than just saying like, I'm a good creative.
More buyable and more viable, whether it is or not.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think the interesting thing that we do, the interesting thing that I do like all the time is I have the processes. I have a gigantic toolbox of all of what framework do you want? Like literally, I know them all. I've seen them all. I pull them in here and there, but largely as a creative problem solver, which a lot of creatives are problem solvers, you know what you can use and you typically throw it out or blow it up or put it together in like different kinds of pieces to do what's right in the situation. So it's just funny to me that people are largely buying process when, as a creative person who can do well at their job, that's typically, it's not always the thing you're following, or you know what it is and maybe it just comes out differently every time you do it. So I knew Sean would have a point of view on this exact topic, which is why I brought this article forward. And then we're kind of bringing forward our takes on it. So rant over.
Let's once again step back.
Let's step back.
Why is this happening? Like you said. Well, first of all, it's mentioned in the article. You know, it's something I'm very passionate about. It's called the commoditization of creative, or even more so, the commoditization of talent.
Yeah.
I am a big believer in process, right?
I know you are.
But my belief is the process, the creative process, needs to be defined by each and every creative individual, their own process. And the problem is I'm going to say the P word, procurement, is in the world of business, in a business model where it's about things like manufacturing, right? Mass producing things. That process that they call proprietary is it's the same for everyone. It just depends on what shapes you choose. But what's more important is the creative people, right? Like we talked about, not just creative designers and copywriters, but strategists, account people who are creative thinkers are the ones you need to bring in to define that process. That's how you build a brilliant team.
Yeah. And you know what I was just thinking about too? It's also a lot of the responsibility isn't just on the agency and having to sell process. A lot of it also goes back to like what the client is asking for. So I've been like digging into and advising a lot on like the RFP process and how it works and like all of that and how kind of broken it typically is. And it's not only on the agencies to say like, hey, how are we going to sell ourselves in the best way and something that's real where we can actually deliver on, but also on clients to say, if you're just asking people what their proprietary process is, like that, they're kind of forced to develop that and bring it forward. So it's also like, be careful what you're asking for, because maybe what you're buying isn't going to help you lead to getting the best result in the end.
Yeah. In the world of business, you're asking money people to choose creative solutions, and creative solutions require risk. They require trust. They require this sort of understanding of process will help you get there. But in absence of the actual people and how they use that process, it can be very disappointing. So you bring on senior people to win the business, and then you give it to more junior people to actually execute it, because that's how you make money.
So it feels like a lot of the problem like comes back to talent. Like, what is going on with talent? How come the industry can't attract and hold the type of talent that leads to the great work like it used to?
Well, you were saying it in the episode we were talking about Kill Your Darlings, and it's when you quoted that Jessica woman from Beam Centauri, and you said she picks the people, not the
Yeah.
agencies. So good news there is there are some brilliant, and I think you've had the benefit or the good fortune of starting to work with those kind of business people, those kind of clients, the clients who understand that the budgets are only going to go down, but that's fine. Keeps us on our toes to really put the right kind of thinking. All we require and able to do our jobs well, from a creative, strategic, whatever, is information, right? We just require as much data and information as we can get in a short period of time. And that information guides our thinking. And what we are typically paid to do is to think.
Mm-hmm.
In this circumstance, they're not buying thinking.
Yeah.
They're buying what they believe is the most viable, foolproof solution to the problem they need to solve.
And a lot of the way that they can buy it is like the show me what it looks like, right? It's not like show me what you think you need to do. It's like show me what it looks like so that I can understand what I'm buying. And a lot of the show me what it looks like is creative and concepts and ideas and showing like execution versus here's the right strategy to solve your problem.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to that conversation we have all the time, which is, it's why good agencies don't do spec work, right? Like show me the most valuable part of what I am paying for free, and I might just give you some business.
Yeah. Even when you don't do spec work, even in situations where people are trying to sell the team, I'm in so many pitches where they're selling the team and I don't work there, But and so that's a problem. So the reason that's a problem, it's not a problem because I don't work there. I have partnerships with a lot of agencies where I work for them all the time. So I am a consistent resource. But the reason I don't work there is because strategy projects are too few and far between, and senior strategy people have a higher cost to them than you just want to keep on your books all of the time when you don't have big strategy projects all the time. So it makes sense that resources like strategy and creative are freelance and come in to support those agencies when they're needed. So you're being sold as part of a team when you don't work there, and people think that's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. In my eyes, it's not a bad thing. Like if a client knew that you were bringing in the right talent to solve that problem,
an expert
to beef up the strength of that team and to get you to the right answers, there's still a barrier as to like, does that person work there or not? But that shouldn't be the question that they're asking. The question that they're asking should be, is that the right person to do the job to solve my problem? Let alone, are they on your consistent payroll?
I'm more important to you as a valued partner who wants to work with you and your business. The fact that we don't abide by the same model in how we make money is actually a good thing. It's win-win.
Yeah, but agencies are made to feel afraid of that transparency because they feel like the clients won't buy their agency if they know that not all of these resources work there. But so it's a mindset shift on the side of the agency as well as the side of the client to say it's not a bad thing to bring in talent to solve problems when it makes sense and have that be your model versus everyone having to work under this roof.
Correct. And it takes us back to, I think this whole article is, it's not the fault of the agency per se. I mean, you choose to play, like you said, you choose to play, you're a player. So yes, you are at fault or you're contributing to the problem. It's also not just the fault of those asking for it, those procuring the solutions. It's the fault of not revisiting the model if this is the result.
Yeah.
It's about the right clients. It's about finding the right people. And I think the irony of the article is the wrong person is calling out the flaw that the model they work within is enabling.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like the CMO says, like, look at all these people pitching the same thing. It's like, well, the ask to the agencies and the environment that we've created in this industry is what is forcing agencies to respond in that way. So I would say, like, my advice to agencies is to not have a process. You need a process. Everyone needs a process, like a box you have to check. But I think what the bigger priority is to start to change the conversation around talent between agencies and clients.
Okay.
To say it is not a bad thing to bring in the right people when we need them. Start to figure out how to change that narrative and make your clients feel comfortable buying a model that has agility to it and flexibility to it to bring in the right people to solve your problem.
It's time to challenge how companies make money and how humans are an important part of that.
Amazing chat.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Marketeers.
Thanks for listening to the Two Marketeers podcast. New episodes launch every 2 weeks.
Find the Two Marketeers podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you like to listen. And be sure to rate and subscribe.
Listen on our website, thetwomarketeers.ca, or you can ask Alexa to play the Two Marketeers podcast.
Want to keep in touch? Follow the Two Marketeers on LinkedIn or at Two Marketeers on TikTok. We've always got something to share.
This podcast is over.